The Supreme Court just ruled on DACA, but the fight over immigration reform is not over. What will happen to the dreamers? Welcome back to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. DACA is back in the news again. The Supreme Court just blocked Trump's bid to end it. And, depending on how you feel about Trump, that's either great news or a disaster. But believe it or not, there is more to the story than just Trump. DACA stands for Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. It was created back in 2012 by President Barack Obama. Now, talking about DACA is very nostalgic for me, since that was the very first episode of America Uncovered, before we'd even finalized the show's name. You should check it out for a full background about DACA, but here's the gist of it. Take it away, 2017 Chris. It was a renewable 2-year permit that gave the estimated 800,000 dreamers the ability to work legally in the United States, access to Social Security and Medicare, and best of all, they wouldn't risk getting deported. Wow, don't ever grow up, 2017 Chris, because you thought 2017 was bad, but it's nothing compared to 2020. Well, at least you'll have a beard. But back to dreamers. That's a name given to the children who came to the U.S. illegally with their parents. And they're treated a little differently, because even though they came illegally, their parents made them do it. Like, when your parents made you put on a stupid bow tie for that family photo, it's not your fault. Only wearing that bow tie won't mean that you have to spend the rest of your life worrying about being deported. The Department of Homeland Security, or DHS, estimates that there were 12 million illegal immigrants living in the United States in 2015. An estimated 700,000 to 800,000 of them are dreamers, the ones who came here as kids. And about a quarter of those dreamers have grown up and now have children of their own. And dreamers' children are automatically American citizens because they were born here. So the point of DACA is to defer deportation for dreamers who were brought into the U.S. before 2007, including the ones who are now adults and have their own families. DACA allows them to stay in the U.S. as long as they renew their status every 2 years and don't commit any crimes. But the thing is, DACA was always meant to be temporary.
Now, let's be clear. This is not amnesty. This is not immunity. This is not a path to citizenship. It's not a permanent fix. This is a temporary stopgap measure that lets us focus our resources wisely while giving a degree of relief and hope to talented, driven, patriotic young people.
President Obama hoped that Congress would pass the DREAM Act, giving dreamers a more permanent solution. That never happened. Then, back in 2017, President Trump said the government would no longer accept DACA renewals, meaning dreamers could eventually face deportation. Now, there were a lot of different opinions about that at the time. This New York Times op-ed said, "There is no upside whatever to this cruelty unless you just want to have fewer people with brown skin and Hispanic surnames around," which is, of course, what this is really all about. But Hector Barreto, chairman of the Latino Coalition, said Trump was right to end DACA, because what was really needed was immigration reform. So yeah, complicated, like everything else on this show. The Trump administration didn't say they were ending DACA to deport all the dreamers. They said they were ending it because it was unconstitutional.
The executive branch, through DACA, deliberately sought to achieve what the legislative branch specifically refused to authorize on multiple occasions. Such an open-ended circumvention of immigration laws was an unconstitutional exercise of authority by the executive branch.
Part of their justification was that the courts had ruled against another Obama administration immigration policy called DAPA. that would have granted the same benefits as DACA to the illegal immigrant parents of U.S. citizens and permanent residents. But legal battles ensued, and the issue went to the Supreme Court, which ultimately blocked DAPA. Then, when Trump tried to end DACA, legal battles ensued, and the issue went to the Supreme Court, which ultimately blocked Trump's bid to end DACA. Trump did not take the defeat well.
Do you get the impression that the Supreme Court doesn't like me?
Imagine someone not liking Trump. Anyway, like I said, the Supreme Court blocked Trump's bid to end DACA. Case closed, right? Oh, not by a long shot.
A day after the Supreme Court blocked his bid to end the DACA program, President Donald Trump on Friday said his administration would try again. Trump tweeted, "The Supreme Court asked us to resubmit on DACA. Nothing was lost or won. They punted much like in a football game. We will be submitting enhanced papers shortly in order to properly fulfill the Supreme Court's ruling and request of yesterday." Trump, however, did not explain what he meant by, quote, enhanced papers.
Enhanced? Well, yeah, I don't know either. But you see, the Supreme Court ruling did not actually do anything to protect DACA. The ruling wasn't about whether DHS, the agency in charge, could end DACA. It was about how DHS ended DACA. The ruling said, "We do not decide whether DACA or its rescission are sound policies. We address only whether DHS complied with the procedural requirement that it provide a reasoned explanation for its action." And because DHS didn't say what would happen to Dreamers if DACA ended, and it also didn't consider other ways of modifying DACA instead of just ending it, the court determined that the decision to rescind DACA was arbitrary and capricious. What? Capricious? Trump doesn't know the meaning of the word. Which is why the Trump administration is trying again.
On Friday, Department of Homeland Security Acting Deputy Secretary Ken Cuccinelli said the department would, quote, move as quickly as possible to present Trump with various executive options he could take.
But here's the thing about the Supreme Court's ruling. According to Washington lawyer Tom Goldstein, who writes about the Supreme Court, ironically, Thursday's Supreme Court decision sparing DACA also likely paved the way for its eventual doom. Why is that? Well, since you watched that first episode of America Uncovered, you know the answer. But just in case, I'll explain. Essentially, Congress has continued to drop the ball on immigration reform. They have consistently failed to pass any kind of law that would permanently settle the Dreamers issue, because that would be hard and controversial, and both sides would have to compromise, which means some people might not get reelected. So, Republicans and Democrats in Congress kicked the can down the road and hoped that in 2 years, their side would get enough votes to get complete control of Congress and do what they wanted. That didn't happen. So, the Obama administration came up with DACA in 2012 as an executive branch memorandum, a temporary solution that has kept getting extended. Now, the president, the executive branch, does not create laws. That's a job of Congress, when they actually get around to it. But the executive branch is in charge of the Department of Homeland Security, which enforces immigration law. So, under the Obama administration, DHS issued this memorandum stating that they would use their prosecutorial discretion to not deport Dreamers. The memorandum stated that while only Congress can make laws, it remains for the executive branch to set forth policy for the exercise of discretion within the framework of the existing law. So Obama wasn't changing immigration laws. His administration said DACA was setting priorities for immigration agents by directing them to focus their energy on criminals and terrorists, not young people in college, the workforce, or the military. According to polls, most Americans support some kind of protection for Dreamers. Yes, even Republicans do. But DACA was and still is controversial because some feel Obama overstepped his constitutional powers, and that would make DACA illegal. Even if you agree with the DACA memorandum, you probably also agree that it's better if immigration laws go through Congress. I mean, do you really want the president to be able to arbitrarily decide immigration policy? And here's why the Supreme Court ruling may be so damning to DACA. The majority opinion said the DACA memorandum does not announce a passive non-enforcement policy. It created a program for conferring affirmative immigration relief. That is not saying DACA is illegal, but it is saying Obama's argument that it was illegal doesn't really hold. That's because DACA wasn't just about not deporting people. It also granted them the ability to work legally and get government benefits. So DACA will be back in front of the Supreme Court again, but that will take time. So DACA will probably become an issue in the 2020 election. But the funny thing is, in a way, Biden and Trump both agree on DACA. After the Supreme Court ruling, Biden said, "As president, I will immediately work to make DACA permanent by sending a bill to Congress on day one of my administration," which is actually what Trump wanted, for Congress to do its job and actually deal with the issue. That's also what Obama wanted. Wait, Biden, Trump, and Obama all agree? So why are we all fighting? Oh, right, because it's complicated. And before we go, I want to thank our supporters on Patreon. YouTube demonetizes any video it considers too controversial, and, well, a lot of our episodes are on controversial topics, so yeah, it makes it hard to keep doing the show. That's why your financial support on Patreon means the difference between making this show happen and YouTube forcing us to shut off the lights. So if you like America Uncovered's style of nonpartisan news analysis with a splash of mildly funny jokes, head over to patreon.com/AmericaUncovered and sign up for as little as $1 an episode. So what do you think of the DACA ruling? And will it affect how you vote in November? Let me know in the comments below. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching America Uncovered.